The International Criminal Court is not the venue to hold Israel to account. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has used chemical weapons and waged a bloody campaign of ethnic cleansing in his brutal suppression of an uprising that has killed 500,000 people, many of them civilians. In Myanmar, military dictator General Min Aung Hlaing and his army have been responsible for bombing civilian villages in its war against the long-persecuted Rohingya minority. And in Sudan, a new potential genocide threatens the Darfur region's black Masalit people at the hands of General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who is known as Hemeti, and his rapid support forces. So who does the International Criminal Court wish to arrest for war crimes? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense chief Yoav Gallant. Israel is not a member of the ICC, and the warrants will have limited practical effect, except possibly preventing Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gallant from traveling to countries which have pledged to enforce it. We say possibly because countries in the past have promised to uphold ICC arrest orders only to ignore them when convenient. Several European countries and Canada have suggested they would uphold the latest arrest orders, others have balked, but the arrest orders undermine the ICC's credibility and give credence to accusations of hypocrisy and selective prosecution. The ICC is putting the elected leaders of a democratic country with its own independent judiciary in the same category as dictators and authoritarians who kill with impunity. Israel went to war in response to the Hamas attack of October 7, 2023, which left 1,200 Israelis dead and another 250 taken hostage, around 100 of whom still remain captive. The ICC's arrest warrant for one of the authors of that massacre, Hamas leader Mohammed Deif, who was probably killed in an Israeli airstrike months ago, looks more like false equivalence than genuine balance. To be sure, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed and maimed in Israel's 13-month-long war against Hamas. More than 44,000 have died, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, which does not distinguish between civilians and combatants. It says more than half of the fatalities have been women and children. The Israeli military says it has killed 17,000 militants, though its basis for that is unclear. Even if accurate, it implies more than 60% killed have been non-combatants. Hamas is to blame for sheltering among civilians and hiding their weapons and command centers in tunnels beneath populated areas. But Israel, as a democratic country that is committed to human rights, must take responsibility for the civilian casualty toll. Israel also has a responsibility to allow humanitarian aid to reach the millions of Palestinians displaced and suffering from an acute food shortage bordering on famine. On this, the Israeli government has fallen short. The State Department, in declining to impose sanctions on Israel for blocking aid deliveries, said it saw some recent improvements, such as a successful polio vaccination campaign in Gaza, another border crossing reopened, and an increase in the number of aid trucks allowed in over past month. But a post-analysis found that Israel has largely failed to comply with the U.S. government's three main demands: a surge of humanitarian aid, not a trickle, access to Gaza for commercial trucks, and an end to Israeli siege of populated northern Gaza. To be sure, aid could have flowed in more quickly if Hamas had accepted a ceasefire deal to free the remaining hostages, but Hamas instead insisted on a withdrawal of all Israeli troops from Gaza and a permanent end to hostilities. Israel needs to be held accountable for its military conduct in Gaza. After the conflict's end, which is long overdue, there will no doubt be Israeli judicial, parliamentary and military commissions of inquiry. Israel's vibrant, independent,